Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stupid Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 76. 76. I am Brendan. Good start. Today we're gonna go over all of the all the fights from this weekend. UFC. Touch on some of the Bellator ones. Probably not go over all of them. Just the main one. Romero versus Phil Davis. And go over over Carlos Condit's career, I guess we'll say. He just retired, so that's kind of big news, especially for someone like me who came up watching the UFC basically the entire time he's been around. So, all right, before we get started, if you like and subscribe, all that stuff, please recommend this to your friends. If you like what I'm doing, give me advice down in the comments below. Let me know, like, do you agree with my decisions? Do you think that, oh, hey, I love groin strikes, we should have some more of them? Do you think any other topics you want to talk about? You let me know, comment down below. Also, at Super Lunch Bros on Twitter. Same thing there. If you want to talk about MMA, I'm always open for discussion. So, all right, let's get into it. Oh, do the influencer thing. I hate that so much. Anyway, all right. So we had Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Spann in the main event this weekend. Let me throw this one over here so I can actually talk into the microphone. All right. Something also a little fun. Smith and Spann, similar to Spick and Spann, the cleaner. Anyway, Smith looked a lot more active and quick than he did in his recent losses. Obviously, the last fight and this fight, his hands look a little bit better. He looks more composed, putting together combos a little bit better. Spann leaves his chin out there way too much and always gets caught. He just does. You know, like, it's happened a lot. Freaking Smiling Sam Alvey caught him. He's not the Alvey's not the crispest crispest striker out there. But Smith is much better. He's still improving, which is crazy to think that he's got over 50 fights and he's 36-16. He's I think 33 of those wins are he finished. It's pretty cool. He got on Spann's back. One of the fastest taps to a rear naked choke I've ever seen. Very aggressive after the fight, too, because of all the shit that Spann was talking all week. How is John Jones the number one pound-for-pound champ right now? Or not even champ, just fighter. That makes no sense to me. Yikes. Anyway. So Smith, before this weekend, was ranked number 6. He called out Alexander Rakic at 3. I hope he should get that fight. Makes sense. Yes, you get what you ask for a lot of times. Rakic even responded while the fight was on. I'm ready in December. So hopefully that gets put down. That's probably for the next title shot, I would say. The winner of that should get a title shot. If not, they would fight one more time and then get a title. I mean, I'd be okay if Rakic got a title now, but with the way Jiri Prochazka has been fighting, I think he's probably going to get it just out of excitement factor. So that makes more sense. Anyway, after the fight, he was very aggressive because Spann, did that whole thing. He's talking shit beforehand, blah, 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 blah. And then, he's looking down. He refused to make eye contact with him. And I see, everybody's, making it seem like it's some badass move. Like, oh, man, you don't look at your prey before you eat it. It's like, God, guys, he's just doing a bit. Even if it's not a bit, he's just doing, this isn't, some badass move that he's pulling here. It's not the first time someone refused to look at the person they were fighting. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. It's not that cool. And it looks real stupid when you play up all that dumb shit and then you get knocked out. Or, he got caught really bad and then finished. And then after the fight, but they were very respectful with each other after the fight. Obviously there was the little dust up with him saying, where's my ass whooping? That's what Smith was saying. It's like, where's my ass whooping? Where's my ass whooping? He's like, I feel like he hit it on the nose because even I have kind of doubted his ability to maintain his top position in the light heavyweight division. And rightfully so. He's pissed off that everybody keeps dismissing him and counting him out. I don't know how he would do against Jan. I don't know how he would do against some of the other top contenders that he hasn't fought yet. But I'll tell you that if he comes out and can put together a performance like he did last night, then he's going to be a tough out for a lot of people because he's hard to put away and he keeps his power late. It's light heavyweight. They're big dudes. They're throwing big fists around. It's going to happen. So him versus Rakic sounds fun. Spann needs to take a step back and go back, fight someone near the end. Maybe him versus Hill would be fun. All right. Oh my God. All right. Leon Cutelaba versus Devin Clark. Dude, Clark's dad is something else. That guy is so freaking loud. He's like, come on. Go get up. Get up. Like, it's just screaming the entire time. It's kind of annoying, especially because how quiet it is. So you can hear him screaming. And it just sounds like it's just nonsense. Like, he was on his hands and knees, and he was like, finish strong, like when there's 10 seconds left. I mean, I guess, but he's not giving him technical advice. He's just screaming at him. And, to each their own, maybe that's helpful to him. And to be fair, Devin Clark looked tough. He got his... So Clark went right to the wrestling and got a takedown, followed by some clinching against the cage at the very beginning of the fight. And then Clark got hit behind the head in transition, right there, swinging. Clark turned away to kind of avoid a shot and then gets clipped in the back of the head. Completely legal. That's going to happen. Like, that'd be like if you try to punch me directly in the face and I turn my head and face the other way while you're throwing the punch. You're not going to get hit with a hitting behind the head type deal. As unfortunate as it is, that's not a rule infraction. It has to be targeted to the back of the head. That is the exact rule. Anyway, Clark grabbing the fence multiple times in the first, gets warned for it a bunch, but who cares? We'll get to that later. There's some more, of course. Cutelaba grabbing the fence. Great. No point deduction there either. Cutelaba got an easy takedown to start the second and spent more than 2 minutes in mount. Spent a lot of the time on top of him. Ian got a takedown in the start of the third. He landed a decent knee, and I think he broke loose some of Clark's teeth in his lower jaw. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you loosen up the teeth down there. But yeah, he did some damage, so he's definitely going to need to see a dentist, as Michael Bisping pointed out. So that's going to be interesting to see this next week if he puts out some pictures, maybe some x-rays of what happened. I'm interested to see. And then Clark just didn't quit, but he just got destroyed in all aspects of MMA. He really did. I don't think he won in a single aspect. He lost in the striking, he lost in the clinch, he lost in the grappling, he lost in the wrestling. There wasn't a lot of submission going on, but I guess he lost that too. So, Cutelaba wants to fight someone ranked. I think he earned it. I don't mind him. I just think he's got to stay like this, where he's reserved and he pays attention to what he's doing and he doesn't gas himself out, which he didn't. So that's good. All right. Ariana Lipski versus Mandy Baum. Mandy came in with no losses on her record, 7-0-1. And she's a touted prospect, I think, from Poland. She looked okay, but, dude, Lipski out-hustled in a 50-50 position early on and ends up on top for 2.5 minutes, and that kind of dictated the rest of the fight. There's some big shots and head kicks exchanges, but Lipski got the better of him. She just threw more, worked harder. Lipski outlanded and landed a big shot with 20 seconds left in the second round and put her down, and then Baum just came out looking tired in the third, and Lipski dropped her again with a right hand in the third, and just... Dude, she looked good. Lipski looked really good. She was her striking wasn't as crisp as it could be, right? It wasn't point A to point B. There was a little bit of loopiness to some of her punches, but she was throwing very hard. Her kicks looked snappy. She looked tough. She looked strong. It's a problem. I mean, it stinks that she's at flyweight. Just for her, like, do I think... I mean, this is stupid because she's not even ranked, but, like, do I think she has a chance to beat Valentina? Based off what I've seen, absolutely not. Not even close. But, you know, that's not the end-all, be-all of everybody's UFC career, right? You know, she could be she's a fun, exciting fighter, and I'm actually excited to see her fight again. All right, Armin Saryukin versus Chris Dostiagos. Saryukin... Armin got away with a glove grab early on. Giagos complained about it. Saryukin was grabbing the glove. And then Armin catches him with a short left hook and then follows up to get the TKO early in the first round. You know, just another rule infraction that just goes swept totally under the rug. I mean, I'm sorry if you guys are sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of watching them. I really am. There's a little bit of I would say a disagreement, but more of a discussion that got started over last week's toes in the cage incident. And I said, the fight was stopped right there, and there was a point taken away, and I forget what the fight was. It wasn't in the UFC, obviously. And I said, that's fine, because they were like, oh, there was people were saying, like, that's a warning, that's a warning. That's it. Well, here's the deal. You get your first warning when the referee talks to you backstage, pre-fight. That's your warning. You shouldn't get other warnings. That's my take on it. And then there's anger thrown, well, not anger, just like a disagreement, like with what I said, because they're like, oh, well, that's not how it's worked. I'm not saying that that's how it's worked. That's not how it should work. Okay? Just because people got away with it in the past doesn't mean they need to keep getting away with it. It's incredibly frustrating to keep watching the same shit happen again and again. And these guys, maybe I'll make a note to myself, because we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and I really want to see rule infractions and winning percentage. Because I guarantee you, there's got to be somebody who kept track of it. Maybe I should start. It's just, because I have all my notes from every single one of these fights, and I can go back every single time and tell you, who won each fight and who committed fouls. Whatever. All right. Nathan Manez versus Tony Gravely. Manez looks like he missed way too many meals. That's me being a little rude. He's very skinny. That's what I'm trying to say. Gravely throwing big looping punches with everything on him. And then Gravely going for takedown, but Manez has good defense throughout the first, and then ended up getting one of his own. Gravely landed some toe stomps, always a good strategy. And then, with 2 seconds left in the first round, Gravely lands a huge shot, and Manez is saved by the bell. There's no two ways about it. If that had happened earlier in the fight. That's, by the way, guys, you can't keep saying this. You can't keep saying if there's 10 more seconds left, or if there were 10 more seconds left in the round. That's implying that, oh, he was saved by some arbitrary thing that ended the beating, or that... No, that's not what happened. Okay? The way to say it, because this is important. I know you're saying, you might say, oh, well, that's semantics. Semantics is important here because one way implies that the guy who was saved by the bell was saved because of something that wasn't predetermined or existed, right? Like somebody coming in and stopping the fight, a rogue mouthpiece going and that kind of thing. No, he was saved. I don't know why. He was saved. He was saved by the end of the round. The pre-agreed upon 5 minutes, he knows, and then with the 10-second clapper, I know I have 10 seconds left. Right? So if I want to take more of a chance, because I know that, I can there's a possibility that if I do get caught, the round's going to be over anyway, so I'll be fine. So the way to say it is, if Gravely had landed that punch or thrown that punch earlier in the round and landed it, the fight would have been over. That's the way to say it. putting the onus on the person throwing, not the onus on the person receiving, right? Because they both know how much time is left. So I can't say, oh, give me 10 more seconds so I can keep throwing punches. No. You don't get more time. You knew that. Maybe that's why you landed in the first place, because you knew that it was on short time, so you were being more aggressive, and that's what allowed, you to open up and throw and land that punch in the first place. So I understand that it sounds like semantics, but it is important. But anyway, Gravely landed a big shot. Like I said, if he had landed earlier, it would have been the end of the fight, but he didn't. Manez kind of was fighting like a guy who was hurt in the second round. He was kind of stumbling a little bit, more reserved. But then he lands a huge right hand of his own and gets a TKO finish. So it just goes to show you, never really get, it's one of those times where you just don't give up. He could easily have just not gone out there for round 2, and this could easily have been one of those times where oh, I can't believe they his corner let him go back out. I don't know if I want to read too much into this, but I thought it was a fun fight to watch, and he didn't seem like he was super damaged, so I'm okay with him going back out, and look what happens. He gets the finish, so that was pretty cool. Joaquin Buckley versus Antonio Arroyo. Arroyo has some really fast kicks with his karate stance. Buckley gets a really nice nut shot in the first round. That was great. Again, rule infraction, no warning, nothing. Arroyo keeping his hands super low throughout the entire fight. That's important. Buckley with some really good forward movement pretty much the whole fight. Arroyo had some hard shots, but the output just wasn't high enough, and then Buckley gets kind of like a sloppy TKO after taking some big shots from Arroyo. He's just too tired. Arroyo is just too tired. The way he stands with his head directly up like that, he looks kind of like Luke Rockhold. It's not a good defensive stance. All right. Mike Rodriguez fighting Tafon Chukwi. I don't know what to say about this. Chukwi looks like he's too small to be super successful at the light heavyweight division, but when he cuts down to 185, he has energy issues. I mean, he didn't look like he had a ton of energy left at the end of this fight. He got the decision win, throwing big punches. Not really a lot of refined striking. Mike Rodriguez, on the other hand, had some more refined striking, but also got taken down super easy over and over again. I don't think either one of these guys is going to be really successful at light heavyweight. I don't mean that in a rude way. I think Chukwi needs to find a way to lose some muscle mass if that's the case. Just cut down to 185 properly. That's all I got to say about that one. It wasn't the most fun fight to watch either, where guys throwing looping punches and then crashing into the other guy, and then they spend time on the cage throwing looping punches, sloppy takedowns. Not the highest skilled fight, put it that way. All right, Pannie Kianzad versus Raquel Pennington. Pennington, it was, again, there's a lot of clinch, a lot of stuff against the fence. Long fight to watch. Pennington just did more. Landed some decent shots, out-grappled her. It was back and forth. It was very close rounds, but I think they got it. I think they got it right. Pennington should have won that fight, so not bad. Is it Zhu Rong? Rong Zhu? Yeah, versus Brandon Jenkins. Rong is the youngest fighter on the UFC roster now, and he looks like he's been fighting for 100 years. That guy, not in a bad way, not in his face. I mean his skill level. He looks very composed, refined. He's got a little bit of wildness to him, but nothing so crazy. Maybe he was just he just outclassed Jenkins, right? Maybe Jenkins isn't on his level at all, and that's why we saw such a one-sided fight. But it is what it is. I'm excited to see him keep fighting. So being a younger guy in the lightweight division, I'm excited. Maybe if he can keep his weight down and it doesn't become an issue, he can work his way up, and maybe in a couple of years, if he, I don't want to see these young fighters get thrown to the wolves and take a bunch of damage that they don't need to take. Let's put it that way. All right, Montel Jackson. What am I doing? Montel versus JP Buys. Montel just way better. Way better. Crisper striking. Down the pipe. Great. Great speed. Good power. Decent in the grappling. I mean, Baez looked good. Looked tight and fast in the first round. He got a takedown within the first minute of the fight. And then there was a scramble, and then he ended up on Jackson's back and was able to kind of get under the neck, but never really did it. Baez had a great fence grab in the first. Again, rule infraction. So, okay, let me get to this. Okay, so Baez, easy to hit. He's not moving his head at all, especially in the later rounds. And then Jackson got a really good nut shot in the third. So here's why we should take points. But here's a great example of when taking a point actually wouldn't have affected the outcome of the fight. Because if you take a point for Baez grabbing the cage, and then Jackson kicks him in the nuts, it's a wash. The people who are going to benefit from this is people who follow the rules, right? This is not to punish good technique. It's to punish sloppy technique. Sloppy with a S-H. Anyway, Jackson looked good. Jackson looks really good. I'm hoping that he can keep things in check and keep it tight at the bantamweight division, because he's got the skills to kind of move up and challenge against the upper echelon if he can keep it on the feet. He can keep it on the feet. I think he can do it. I mean, he's decent on the ground, but you can tell that if someone really wanted to go for takedowns, they could. All right, Alpar versus Blanchfield. This fight shouldn't have been in the UFC. This isn't to disrespect these women. It's more of, it was not a fun fight to watch. Sloppy punching, sloppy grappling, sloppy wrestling, not good. Blanchfield gets the decision win. You don't need to watch that fight. And it's at flyweight. Not good. These women need miles of improvement before they can start challenging the upper echelon in this division. All right, Impa Kasangane versus Carlson Harris. Impa's very sloppy and gets stationary when he starts throwing. So he'll bounce in, and once he starts to engage, his feet stay planted and he just starts throwing. You can see that a lot with people who have power and have gotten away with athleticism. But you start to get punished for that when you start fighting people with even Harris was throwing big looping punches, but he was moving his feet. Right? Throwing a straight punch is great, but if your footwork is bad, I mean, you're gonna get hit. That's why. And this is an extreme example, but look at Dominic Cruz. The reason why he never got he didn't take a ton of damage is because he was moving always. Footwork. All right. So Impa got caught sitting still and then goes down from a big right hand. Right? Get a TKO finish for Carlson Harris. Harris looks fine, and then Impa, I don't know, man. I mean, at welterweight, being a strong guy who throws big punches could make you a fun fighter to watch, and we saw it for a while. Oh, no, he stopped doing that too. Crud, I don't remember the guy I'm trying to think of. Anyway, yeah, I mean, he could definitely beat people in the welterweight division. It's just he's going to get picked apart. All right, so at bantamweight, we had our Do you want to follow? Go. Let's go over the first fight first, because then we'll loop back around. Emily Whitmore versus Hannah Goldie. You guys know that Goldie was obviously on stuff at some point, right? You know that, like, those muscles do not develop on the female frame naturally. Like, you don't have those kinds of muscle bellies without elevated levels of testosterone. It seems like something like nobody talks about, but like when someone gets banned for it, they're like, oh, how could this person do these things? Pick a thing. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bug me that someone has done it, as long as they're not doing it now, right? Because that's the rules we all decided to follow, right? But that's what I'm saying is, like, the same people who are up in arms who, like, have basically just, like, shut me out because I try to make a nuanced approach to it, or they, like, just say, like, oh, that's cheating, cheating's cheating. Man, you can't put drugs in your body, that's bad. Bah, bah, so bad for you. But they won't say a damn word when they look at a woman with giant ass shoulders and veins coming out of her forearms. You know she was on stuff, right? It's okay too. Like, that's the thing is, like, I'm not here to, like, defame her or say that what she's done isn't impressive or anything like that. Oh, by the way, she won via armbar. She caught her in an armbar where Emily's arm was actually stuck under her own arm because she was holding it in like this, right? And it got pulled out anyway, and it got, like, wedged in. So her arm was wedged underneath hers, and she had to verbally tap. She had to say tap. Very strong. Goldie's very, very strong. No shit. Look at her goddamn frame. So much muscle. Again, and also her jawline, like, there's just, she has a wider jawline, which is a side effect from using testosterone. There's just, like, there's lots of indicators, okay? And again, this isn't to take away from anything that she's done. I just want everybody, people should be more consistent, right? Right. Everybody who criticized Chris Cyborg for years because she failed one test so many years ago, but she passed all the tests recently. But, they see someone who's jacked out of their mind and they're like, they won't say a word. It's weird to me. Also, it might be because she's the first fight and nobody watched it. All right. Gustavo Lopez versus Hailey Alatang. Oh, wait. So it's Alatang, Hailey Alatang. Alatang, Hailey. That's what it is. It's reversed. I believe that's like a Korean thing. Or no, it's a Chinese thing. Yes. Is it also a Korean thing? Where the names are flipped, right? The surname is first and the given name is second. In the Western world, it's opposite, right? The given name is first and the surname is second. That's why it's, the most famous one is like Yao Ming, but Yao was on his jersey. That's because that's his surname. That's his family name. Anyway, it's a high-paced fight. Both guys landing big shots, starting at like a minute and a half into the fight, just like nonstop craziness. Hailey wins the first and second round, I'd say convincingly, right? They're close, but they're easy to score for him. Then in the third round, he was losing it anyway, but he grabs the cage 6 freaking times. 6. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then he gets a point deducted. What the hell? Why did you wait until, like, this? And I know people are joking around. They're like, man, Keith Peterson says no nonsense. There's no nonsense. You're not going to have any of that fence-grabbing nonsense. Like, what the hell happened to my desk? Anyway, I know that's funny and all, but seriously, 6 times he had to grab the fence before a point got taken away. 6. Forget the 1 free foul. He got 5. And what if he doesn't grab it the 6th time? What if he doesn't grab it the sixth time? Then what? He wins the fight. But it was a draw because he got 1 point deducted. As far as I'm concerned, he should, like, again, if he had got the point deducted earlier, maybe he doesn't grab the fence again. But if he does, now he loses the fight. This is how it should be. Follow the fucking rules or you lose. I said good day, sir. Ah, crap. All right, let's go over the main event from the Bellator this past weekend. Bellator 266. Phil Davis taking on Yoel Romero. This is Yoel Romero's debut in the Bellator after he didn't pass the medical for his what was supposed to be his debut against Anthony Rumble Johnson. All right. Okay. You know my feelings on Yoel Romero. If you have watched this show before, or you've heard me speak, or you know me personally, you know damn well how I feel about Yoel Romero. Let's look real quick. We're going to do a deep dive here into his record. All right, so he loses again. He gets knocked out by Feijão, right? Rafael Cavalcante. Back in 2011. He got knocked out. Then he fights 2 years later, a year and a half later, against Clifford Starks in the UFC. He got a flying knee. And then he knocks out Ronnie Marcus. Then he gets a TKO against Derek Brunson in a pretty competitive fight, I might add. Okay? Okay, that's a good win right there. So he got one good win. 2 guys nobody's ever heard of, and then that's a finish that he got. Then, Brad Tavares. He gets a decision win over Brad Tavares. Convincing, he should have won that one. Then he should have lost a fight to Tim Kennedy in which he cheated, so we don't count that as a win. So far we've got 2 really good wins. Tim Kennedy doesn't count as a good win, right? Because there's nothing but controversy there. Like, can you at least give me that? Right, I'm not going to count it as a loss, but we're not going to count it as a good win. Just like his first 2 wins, like, it doesn't mean anything because they're nobody. And then he knocks out Lyoto Machida. That was a good win. Machida was still semi-competitive at the time, but I would argue that he was way past his prime, so whatever. Then he gets a split decision win against Jacare, in which he should not have got that decision. So we're going to say that he didn't win that one either. And let's say it also not convincing. So he's got 3 so far. Then he loses to Robert Whittaker. And what does he... Okay, by the way, the excuses started with Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't cheat. Then when he fought against Jacare, like the whole ice thing, they spilled ice on his side. Right? And then, let's see, he gets a flying knee knockout of Chris Weidman in a fight that he was losing. He was just losing. It was a Hail Mary knee, and he gets a finish. Good for him, I guess. But, okay, so he gets that knockout. Then he loses to Robert Whittaker. Loses a decision. A 5-round decision. And this was for the interim title. And he had nothing but excuses after that fight. He's like, oh, I won that fight. I can't believe that, blah, blah, blah. I should have won that fight. Then they have another interim title because Robert Whittaker is injured, right? And he's out for a bit. So they have him fight Luke Rockhold, and he misses weight for that. Misses weight, but then he knocks out Luke Rockhold, which, whatever. I don't think Rockhold has looked that great in a very long time, so that's not a great win for me either. But he missed weight, so he essentially cheated there too. Then he loses a split decision to Robert Whittaker, in which I felt that he did lose, even though Joe Rogan says immediately, like, I feel like some people think that you lost that fight to Robert Whittaker immediately afterwards. Like, okay, nobody thought that. Like, no, but no, watch the fight again and tell me round by round how Yoel Romero wins that fight. That's one. So it's loss, win, loss. Then he loses to Paulo Costa. Oh, by the way, nothing but excuses afterwards, the Robert Whittaker fight. Like, clearly I won that. I'm the people's champ. Everybody saw there. What were you watching? I won that fight. Okay. Paulo Costa. He loses a decision in that one as well. And that was a unanimous decision, not a split decision. And then same excuses. Oh, man, what were you watching? I won that fight. What were you watching? How could you not give me that decision? Loses a unanimous decision to Israel Adesanya, in which he was given a title shot after he lost to Paulo Costa. He lost 2 fights in a row and then got a title shot. Okay. And then we all know how the Adesanya fight went, where he stood still for the first 45 seconds and didn't throw a punch for the first minute or whatever. And then afterwards says really racist shit to Adesanya, saying that, like, oh, his ancestors were runners. I should have been running more because he's running away from me. That's super fucking racist. But it's okay because it's Yoel, and, oh, it's a bad translation. He doesn't know what he's saying. Bullshit. He knows exactly what the fuck he's saying. It's fucking racist. Yeah, like, if that's another fighter, especially like a white fighter who says that shit, like, forget it. Burn the place down. That guy's racist. But, you know, because it's Yoel Romero, no forget Jesus. Anyway, the love for him, I have never understood. I don't think he's exciting. He's had a few exciting fights, but for the most part, most of his fights are very boring. So he loses that decision, gets cut from the UFC. There's a bunch of people who are like, oh, I can't believe, they cut him, like, blah, blah, blah. How can you, but, okay. You know why he got cut? Because of this shit. So he loses a split decision to Phil Davis. It was not a split decision. That judge should be Jared Villal. You made a bad decision, dude. A bad decision. Anyway. So he loses a 3-round decision to Phil Davis. It should be unanimous. Nobody in the world thought even Yoel fans don't think he won that one, in which he stood and did nothing for most of the fight. Got outstruck and out-wrestled this time by Phil Davis. All this talk about Yoel Romero's wrestling. Dude, I don't know if he's attempted a takedown or got a solid takedown in, 5 years? Can we stop about his wrestling prowess now? Like, yeah, he's an insane wrestler from back in the day, but he doesn't wrestle anymore. Okay, it's like saying Dan Henderson's like super good at wrestling. How many takedowns did he attempt in the last 10 years of his fighting or whatever? Come on. Anyway, so he loses decision to Phil Davis. So normally, being the soldier of God and the super respectful man he is, after the fight, he goes up to Phil Davis, says congratulations, blah, blah, blah. And then the excuses come. Oh, I thought this was a 5-round fight. What? Who's buying this now? Can we stop? The amount of backlash that Joanna got, the amount of backlash that Ronda got, rightfully so, by the way, not excusing their behavior, but anybody who blames their team and makes excuses and then says nothing but blaming everyone else and doesn't take responsibility for the losses, every fucking one of them just gets, like, railroaded into MMA bullshit. Like, they're just like, no, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Nope. They just bury him. Like, that guy's terrible. Can't believe that. Oh, how could she say that? Oh, she's weak. She's weak. I mean, we don't have to get into the Wiley Zhang thing where, she basically said she lost because people were booing her. That's fucking ridiculous. Like, that's ridiculous. And anybody defending that, being like, yeah, that's why. Y'all need to stop watching MMA. If that's how you're gonna react. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. You can continue to watch it, but, like, you should really hang up the commentary, because that's stupid. And this whole thing, like, oh, I thought it was 5 rounds. Okay, well, you lost the first 3. What was your fucking plan, genius? More of the same in the last 2? Get the fuck out of here. You were dominated. It wasn't even close. Maybe so maybe he won the first round. But the second and the third, dude, Phil Davis was throwing him around like nothing. You didn't tell me he wasn't going to be able to do that for the next 2 rounds? Get out of here. Maybe it's because he's at light heavyweight or whatever. I'm telling you though, this whole thing where people not just make excuses but celebrate Yoel Romero on his prowess, his MMA, whatever. The fact that he looks good, like physically at 44 years old. Like, and this isn't me like celebrating his loss. It's more just vindication of my opinion that I've had for a very long time that he's not an exciting fighter. He doesn't win, and he doesn't represent he's two-faced. He's inconsiderate. He's fake. He's fake, guys. Like you got to stop. The Paulo Costa fight was exciting. Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure if you have some other idiot who like Paulo Costa's a moron. That's why that fight was exciting. It wasn't because Paulo Costa's some striking wizard. It was because he walked forward and started throwing hooks. The Robert Whittaker fights, go back and watch them. Most of those fights were Robert Whittaker tuning him up. And he got caught a few times. And remember, in the first fight, he had a bum knee because he snapped it. And he still won the fight. So I'm not telling anybody who and who not to be a fan of. I'm just saying, can we please be realistic and understanding of who this person actually is? And it's not this exciting, like, boogeyman that people are scared to fight and, oh, he's made of steel and this and that. No. He's a 44-year-old man who hasn't had a win in MMA in over 3 years and a real good win in 5. 5 years. Back when he was 39, before he was 40 years old. Almost like age matters, huh? Probably makes sense a little bit. Also, and I'm not going to sit here and do this again, but every opportunity he's been given to step up to the next level or stand out as either a champion or title content, whatever it might be, he just doesn't step up. He doesn't. When he fought for the title 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Sorry, he was scheduled to fight for the title 4 times. Lost the first one. Missed weight for the second one. Missed weight for the third one and lost. And then he made weight for the fourth one but lost. Can we stop, please? Like, it's not. I've never liked him. I was never bought into whatever charm that people thought he had. He seems fake to me. He seems like a fucking politician. This isn't a language barrier thing. This isn't me being like a jerk or hating on Cubans. It's not. He's fake as shit. He's fake. He's fake, guys. It's just like how they go in, like the Cuban wrestling team. They don't show you their real moves. Like all that shit that he shows in all of his promos of him boxing and doing all this shit. Where does all that go? It's almost like he's not going to do that. All right. Let's go to more positive news. That's like, I mean, it's not necessarily positive. Kind of melancholy a little bit. Just because for me, I've always been a Carlos Condit fan. I thought he looked amazing against GSP. This man won the Strikeforce title. WC title. And then defended it 3 times. Before the WC was eventually absorbed into the UFC. But also, so this man started his professional career in 2002. Right, and he made it to WEC in 2007 and fought for this first title in 2007, won the title, and just the amount of stoppages. Right, he ends his career with 32 wins and 14 losses, 15 wins by knockout, 13 wins by submission, only 4 decision wins. He was only knocked out once, submitted 6 times, but most of his losses were by decision. Actually, half of his losses were by decision, 7 losses. But if you go back and look at who he fought, also, by the way, he's 4-1 or 3-1 as a kickboxer, a professional kickboxer, and he's 0-1 as a professional boxer. I'm just looking at his Wikipedia page because it's the easiest reference. But let's go into the people that he fought. Well, Rumble on the Rock there's some names there that you would recognize. Frank Trigg, he beat him. He submitted him back in 2006. But then he ended up losing to Jake Shields that same night. Lost to Pat Healy. Remember the guy who gave Khabib a real fucking problem. Koji Oshii. That's Pancrase. Kyle Jensen. So he submitted Kyle Jensen. Then he submits John Alessio. Brock Larson submitted him. Submitted Carlo Prater. And then knocks out Hiromitsu Miura. Then he comes to the UFC and loses his first fight via split decision to Martin Kampmann. Then he wins a decision against Jake Ellenberger. Gets a TKO finish against Roy McDonald. Knocks out Dan Hardy. Knocks out Dong Young Kim. Stun gun. Beats Nick Diaz. Then loses a decision to Georges St. Pierre. Loses a decision to Johnny Hendricks when Johnny Hendricks was big rig and knocking people the fuck out. Knocks out Martin Kampmann. He ends up having blowing out his knee against Tyron Woodley. There's a leg kick, it was from a leg kick, so that is what it is. Knocks out Thiago Alves in 2015. Loses a split decision to Robbie Lawler. That was bullshit. He did not lose that fight. He should have won that fight. That was for the welterweight championship. He should have been the fucking champ. Right there. By the way, he did have the interim championship against Nick Diaz back in 2012. But he did beat Robbie Lawler. That was a bad decision. Then he gets submitted by Damian Maia. Loses a decision to Neil Magny. Didn't look the same. Gets submitted by Alex Oliveira. Gets submitted by Michael Chiesa. Wins a decision against Court McGee. Beats Matt Brown. And then loses a decision to Max Payne Griffin. All of those people, all of them, at the time he fought them, were, with the exception maybe of Damian Maia, I would say Damian Maia was probably past his prime when he fought him back in 2016. I don't know. That was when Damian Maia was on a tear, too. Back in 2016, right around when he fought for the title at welterweight. I don't know, man. Dude, everybody he fought is a freaking killer. Everybody. All of those names in the UFC. Maybe minus none of them. All of them. Fucking killers. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he lost 5 in a row, 1, 2, and then lost his last one. Yeah, he had a rough patch there from 2016 to 2018. Meanwhile, he's fighting nothing but top contenders the entire time. Dude, it's unbelievable the amount of names on there, and he was competitive with so many of them. It's something else. Congratulations, Carlos Condit, on a crazy career. Loved watching you fight, man. It's kind of sucks not going to see Natural Born Killer out there anymore. It was just something fun. something fun. When he was when he was on the card, you knew that there was going to be at least one good fight out there. I mean, there's still fights that I'm not sad or anything. Like, I'm happy for him that he's had such a good career and that he's going to be moving on to bigger and better things. But, dude, it's just the entire time I watched MMA, Carlos Condit was fighting in the UFC. No, he fought in WEC while I was watching too. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's been fighting professionally in the biggest organizations, like the WEC and then the UFC, since I started watching MMA. Like, that's bananas. That's super cool. And that's one of the things, like, one of those guys where when I first started watching, there was just names that I knew, right? From the first, this is something silly, but like the first UFC video game. You know, like the names of the people on there. Like, the amount of people that were in that game that are no longer in the UFC, like, that list is getting longer and longer, and Carlos Condit was one of them. You know, it's just obviously I know he wasn't going to be, you know, fighting for a title again or anything like that. It was just, I really wish he got that decision against Robbie Lawler. I really do. Because I think he beats Tyron Woodley and he doesn't get caught by Tyron Woodley's bullshit like Robbie Lawler did. I mean, I think he probably still would have lost to Kamaru Usman just because of the wrestling. But it just, he should have been one. Oh, well. Anyway, we got some fights next week. Yes, we do. It's a big card. UFC 266. Wait a minute. Did Bellator just have Bellator 266? They did. I was wondering when the day was going to happen. So Bellator has officially caught up in their numbers to the UFC's pay-per-views, right? So obviously the UFC has had more events, is going to continue to have more events, and there's no way they could keep up. It's like impossible. The UFC has an event every single weekend. But their pay-per-views, UFC 266 is next week. Well, last week, Bellator 266 took place. So Bellator has officially caught up. All right. We got Alexander Volkanovski taking on Brian Ortega next weekend. I'm rooting for Volkanovski. Never liked Ortega seems like a fine guy. I just never been a fan of him. I thought the organization is trying to push him very hard. You know, and like I wanted to see Volkanovski versus Holloway again because both fights were really good and Holloway has looked insane, and I hope Holloway doesn't get shut out just because he has 2 technical losses to him. The flyweights, you got Valentina Shevchenko about to commit a murder against Lauren Murphy. I mean, Murphy could shock the world and do something crazy. I'm sure anything can happen. Sure, I mean, it is a possibility. The statistical probability is above 0. Valentina's going to win that fight. Nick Diaz coming back, finally. Fighting Robbie Lawler like 20 years after they fought the last time. So that's a pretty exciting fight. Curtis Blades fighting Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I'm going to be rooting for Blades, and I won't hear anything else of it. Jessica Andraj versus Cynthia Calvillo. That's going to be interesting to see is what Andraj ends up doing, because Calvillo is a pretty tough grappler. Who's on the prelims? Oh, good. Google doesn't work, so that's good. Anyway, we'll cover all that stuff after those fights happen. So, I think that's it. Talked about Yoel Romero again for like 20 minutes. I said I wouldn't do it anymore. I can't help myself. It's so frustrating to watch him fight. Like, hearing all the hype, hearing everybody talk about him, looking at Twitter all week, being like, Yoel Romero's fighting. Look at all these look how strong he is. Look at his muscles. Look at this. Remember this? Look at all these gifts. And then he goes out there and stands still for fucking 15 minutes. You guys can't really be into him, right? It's ironic at this point. That's what you're doing, right? You're ironically into him. Just like when Artem Lobov was fighting in MMA, everybody's like, oh, he's the greatest of all time. That kind of stuff. Like, it's ironic that we're doing this. Whatevs. No, that's it. We're going to call it with that one. Anyway, I appreciate y'all, especially for making it to the end. If you have, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought about the fights this weekend. Let me know what you thought about Bellator. They are up to 266. Do you think Bellator's content is getting anywhere near as good as UFC's? Some of their bigger cards. Do you think that... I'm telling you, man, it's the lighting. I watched them again this weekend, and I watched both events, and I watched them over again. Like, I watched some fights over and over again. I will tell you, it's the lighting. Bellator does not have as good a lighting as the UFC. And for some people, that might not matter. For me, it's noticeable. Watch them again. Like, you can see it. It's like the way it's lit up. You can see too much of the crowd in Bellator. I just want to see the circle. Anyway, what do you think about the lighting? Let me know what you thought about, like, did Carlos Condit bring you into MMA? Were you a huge fan of his? Did you like watching him fight? Did you not like him for some reason? Maybe you can't think he was boring. Maybe you just don't like him because he beat your favorite guy. That could be. I mean, I didn't always like Anderson Silva because of that, because he beat Rich Franklin. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for listening. It means a lot to me. Please tell somebody else, if they're in MMA, tell them to give my podcast a listen. I do this every week. You should post them up on Sundays every time, regardless if there's an event or not. So appreciate y'all. Have a great week.